This needs to stop now. People need to stop behaving as if we're still in colonial times.
We're going to stop foreign funding for the purchase of our cocoa. We are going to raise domestic bonds. We have enough cedis in Ghana to pay for our cocoa. We're going to raise domestic bonds, buy our own cocoa. We don't need to collateralize the beans. I know the interesting part. We have the capacity to process 400,000 tons of those beans, processing capacity in Ghana. But because the beans are collateralized, we cannot even allocate those beans to the local processors. We have to ship all the beans outside. Now, if we buy the beans ourselves, we can take 400,000 tons out of the beans and give to our local processors to add value. That is what the Accra research is about. I say by 2030, there are not going to be any raw mineral ores leaving Ghana. You're not going to ship manganese ores out of Ghana raw. You're not going to ship bauxite ore out of Ghana raw. You're not going to ship iron ore out of Ghana raw. You must process all that locally. You're not going to ship manganese ores out of Ghana raw. You're not going to ship bauxite ore out of Ghana raw. You're not going to ship iron ore out of Ghana raw. You must process all that locally. That is the only way we can provide opportunities for our young people.
Hello, my people. Today, I'm going to tell you the three best African leaders at the moment. You know what I mean? We have three best African leader. In my own opinion, this is my own personal opinion in how I see, leadership in Africa. And I'm going to discuss in this video the three best, in terms of leadership qualities and what they're doing and what they're saying. You know what I mean? That is how I come to this judgment. And I don't wanna talk about the worst, but maybe in future video I'm gonna make a video about the three worst African current leaders we have at the moment. But before I start give you the number one, I'm gonna want you to please help me to get more subscribers by liking the video and subscribe if you can, please. Thank you. And let me circle back to the topic of the day. And I'm gonna start at number one. I don't want to start at number three. Let me start at number one. And I'm gonna play you a little bit of video, and after that I will go to number two. And number one is John Mahama of Ghana. He has a vision, because he scarces the African leaders that are talking about vision, like what they intend to do in 10 years, So most of our African leaders, they have this short-term memory, short-term stuff of doing stuff. But when you see somebody that's doing something on the ground and they still have vision of where they want the country to be, you're gonna give him, the respect he deserves. I think he is at number one in terms of leadership. I would have mentioned another person like Ibrahim Traore, which is gonna be in this tray, but because it's not democracy, it's military. I'm gonna give you a reason why I didn't put him at number one. You know what I mean? So let's watch this video and I will come back and I will continue with the number two. You know what I mean? So at number two is actually Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. You know what I mean? And everybody knows him. He's a young guy. He's on the younger side compared to the Ghana president. But when you see what this guy is doing and the vision he has for his country, you cannot stop giving him thanks and praises. You know what I mean? Because he deserves this. And this is somebody that loves his country. You can see it in his action, and you see the people after him. Those enemies. We have a lot of enemies in Africa. I mean, even home and abroad, that they don't want Africa to progress. That's the intention is to impede African progress. And they want to do it in any means they can, even through violence, they will do it. But Ibrahim Traore is what Africa need now because he's young. He think like young people. He wants young people to be happy and have a good life. But all these old, old head we have in Africa, they don't care about good life for Africa. They only care about what their masters somewhere else in the world are telling them to do or want to get from them. And you can, why I didn't put, let me tell you why I didn't put Ibrahim Traore as number one, because he would have, it deserved number one, but why is because it's military, it's not democracy. Even though Africa, the democracy we have in Africa is fake. But the only, but it's but here because the only thing is that we have seen people like Ibrahim Traore. We have seen them before. I'm not saying it's going to be exactly the same like these people because they start doing well at the beginning. Maybe for the 5 years they did well, but because they don't have plan of returning to democracy, we don't want a situation where one person, one man, everything depends on one man. If something happened to this man, like if something happened to him, are we guaranteed that the next leader is going to be like him? Or it's not going to be bought by the foreign agent. You know what I mean? This is what we encounter in Libya, Muammar Gaddafi. I don't approve everything that Gaddafi did, but one thing he did with his country that he kept them peace, at least. Yeah. And he not only that he gave them peace, their quality of life was better as well, even though he becomes the dictator. And that's why I was hesitant to put the guy in number one because somebody like Gaddafi, now that he's gone, look at where the country is. No one will do like Gaddafi again. That's what we want to do. Like in Burkina Faso, if the only thing he achieved is getting people that have the same mind like him, you know what I mean? If we can get the same people that have the same mind like him, people that can succeed him, or if he's not there, they can still do the same thing he's doing. I think we know that they have, that this is the best thing that can happen because if all the hope of a country or even a group depend on one man, this man and is a target, So if anything happens to him, so how do you think that the Burkina Faso is gonna be? That's why I didn't put him number one. But we need somebody like him at least. What I would like him to do is to stay in power for 10 years, not more than that. Because he's young. But we know even the people who disagree with me like 10 years is too much because when somebody stays in 10 years, power in 10 years, they can change. You never know what people can be in next 10 years. But at least if we have this mindset, 10 years, put the country in order and leave a legacy that somebody will come, following that footstep. If not, it's gonna be a big problem, because if anything happens to the guy, we will go back to square one, of corruption. I don't care about the, even if it's what I care about, even if you call it democracy, make a way that you can stay for 10 years. I think China does their leadership change every, I think, 6 or 8 years, or 10 years. I think something like that, succession, that every 10 years another person will come in. It's good. And even if you write it in constitution, because all these 4 years democracy stuff like that, it comes with disadvantages. We see it's not working in Africa. And it's obvious. And that number 3 is Dumo Boko of Botswana. He's a young guy. He's a human rights activist before he becomes the president of Burkina Faso. And he talks good talk, I like the way he talks, the way he relates to people, and the vision, he expresses himself, he's doing a wonderful job at the moment, but we don't know what he's gonna do tomorrow. But I think he deserves some kudos. He deserves some respect. This is the top three best leadership we have at the moment. It can change tomorrow, and we hope that they continue doing what they're doing, which is good for the people they are representing. Peace.